morning. It's Ms.Moni Hart. And right now, I just saw this. Good morning. It is. I was 12 when I got pregnant with my cousin's baby. And this is Unfiltered Stories. And it says pregnant at 11. Wow, wow, wow. I want to see this. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This is Ms.Moni Hart's opinion. If my opinion hurts your feelings, I apologize. Have a wonderful day. Sending love to everyone. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Thank you for being here and watching. Let's get into this video.
No, thank you. I don't smoke or drink or curse or do drugs anymore. My name is Adriana LaCris, and my story is about how I was molested by an older cousin. Growing up, I had two
Wow.
cousins. 1996 or 1997, when my mom was pregnant with me, their mom was killed. She was killed by the NYPD. And
Oh,
so at that point,
sorry
they
for your
went
loss.
with
Oh, my.
their mom's side of the family. Their mom's mom wasn't alive. They just wound up going on that side.
Okay.
And so whenever they became teenagers, about 14, 15 years old, it was brought to my mom and her twin sister attention that they were needing some assistance with them and that they wanted to send them down. They were supposed to be coming down for the summer at first. When they got here, things were a little different. They were telling us things about their aunt on their mom's side, and they were saying how she just was doing all of these terrible things to them. And so my mom and my aunt, they wound up taking him in. My aunt wound up taking him and his sister at first, and then some things happened, and he wound up coming to stay in where we live. And so whenever he got here, he was a teenager, and so my mom and her sister just kind of helped taking care of them. Right. At that time, I believe I was probably about 11 when they got down here, probably about 11. Okay. So the abuse didn't start too much longer after that. It started off with just touching and everything. Mm-hmm. And then it went deeper, obviously, because I had a child from it. So when I was 11 years old, a male cousin of mine came down from New York to live with us. And the abuse started soon after that. And I believe I was in about fifth or sixth grade. Up until this point, him and his younger sister were living with their mom's side of the family. And so the sister wound up staying with my aunt. He wound up staying with us. And from there, that's when the abuse started. He didn't have any problems. Everyone seen him as sweet. Everyone seen him as a good person. Nobody thought that he would do anything like that. They thought the aunt was lying. They thought that, like the aunt was just treating him bad, but he never acted like aggressive. He never really had fights and stuff at school like that. Never really in trouble. We are actually originally from New York, so we don't have much family down here. But the family we do have, we was all really close knit. We was all really close knit, and everybody, really was always around each other. Whenever I was 11 and he moved in, I could tell that things were different, like versus my other, because I have another male cousin, but versus him, it was just different. It was touchy, kind of always on me in my face. And mind you, I was younger than him, about 5, 6 years younger than him. I would say he would try to be alone with me a lot, try to close the door, because I do have other sisters. I do have cousins. Like we were all kids at the same time, so it was a lot of us. Okay, and so, he would just try to get me alone a lot. Now, as an adult, I could look back and realize that it was grooming, and that it wasn't normal. But as a kid, I didn't realize it at the time. I thought, we're all just close, and I didn't realize you didn't think he was being weird, doing what he was doing, until it was actual, like you could tell, okay, this is not right. I believe I was around 12, and at that time he had like video games in his room, and so we would play the video game. Even with all of the kids around, he would try to, get them out, close the door, And
Oh
it was like it
goodness.
would stop us from playing the video game to like try to be sexual. I feel like I've really blocked out a lot of things, but I know that back then, whenever he
Oh
would do
my
things,
goodness.
it would be like stuff leading up. You know, first he would start with the touching, and
Okay.
then he would start with like coming and laying beside me and like putting himself in my area. It was like he was
Mmm.
taking steps,
Goodness
like
be
grooming. He
Jeezy.
was taking steps
Yeah.
leading up to actually being sexual. And at this time, he had the game in his room. We were playing the game, and he stopped the game because he wanted to be sexual. And at that time, you're a kid. You don't really think about things like how it is. In this specific incident, I remember being a kid. I remember being alone. My mom and my stepdad actually went out to like a date, and they had stayed at a
Oh.
hotel, spend the night out, and it was just me, him, my sisters, and my grandmother. And
Okay, grandma
we
did.
happened to
Okay,
be
okay.
in the same room as my grandma. I remember him being in the room with me and my grandma. I don't know if he did that purposely so he could do what he did, but I do remember
What?
us all being in the room, watching TV, and my grandmother fell asleep. When my grandmother fell asleep,
It-
I guess he found that as his time to try to get me out the room.
oh
And
my
so he
goodness.
tapped on me to come in the living room. And when went in the living room, that's when he began to do sexual things to me. I remember
Oh my
at that
goodness.
point, it was penetration. So he began to do sexual things to me. And then
Oh my goodness.
at some point, my grandmother got up and came in the living room, and I remember her saying, like, "What are y'all doing? What's going on?" And she
Mm-hmm.
then took me from the living room and put me back in the room. And he had his own, so she told him to go
Go
in
in
his
his
own room,
room.
I believe. And she felt weird about that. I remember her telling my mom about that situation. I was
Right.
scared at that moment. I was scared. I
What?
don't know why. I felt like I was in trouble. I felt like I was the one in trouble, and I was scared, even
Oh
though,
wow.
he was the older cousin, and he was the one who told me to come in the living room. I remember going on like family trips and stuff like that. Anytime he would get a chance to touch me, he would. When I was about 12 or
Yeah.
13, I got pregnant. And at that time, I believe I was in seventh grade. And I don't know, because I
Oh
was
my.
just a kid. I don't know how I knew that I was pregnant, but
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like very, very sick. I felt like I had the flu, like I was just dying inside. My stomach was
Darn, that
hurting.
is so
I would get
sad.
hot flashes, and I just felt very, very sick. And I remember even one day being in school and asking the teacher if I could go to the bathroom because I felt really sick, like I was about to throw up. And the
Oh,
teacher actually said no, but I remember getting up and leaving anyways because I just felt like
it was
like I was
time.
about to puke everywhere. So I wound up getting up, going to the bathroom. Before I could even make it to the bathroom, I threw up everywhere. Whenever I
Right.
was about 12 or 13 in that same incident, whenever I was pregnant, I remember, just thinking about my period and knowing that, of
Oh
course, when you
yeah.
get pregnant, you don't have a period. So
Right.
that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about
Well,
that
some
I
people
haven't had my
do, but
period. I feel really sick. And even being so young, I just felt like I was pregnant. I remember knowing that I was pregnant, and I would always, I don't
oh,
know if this was the reason for what happened, but I would always go into my mom's bathroom, and I would always like take different medicines and pills, any pills or anything that I seen that said don't consume while pregnant. I used to take the pills. I just used to take them. One day
oh,
I woke up and it was like I was all hot all over. My body was just, it felt so weird. And I just had this urge to go to the bathroom. And when I went to the bathroom, I felt like an urge to push. And so when I was in the bathroom, I pushed, and it was like a whole bunch of blood and tissues, and
oh my
I mean, like body
gosh.
tissues. And it was just like a lot of different things, blood clots coming out of me.
Oh my goodness.
So that's
And that's a
when I
baby going
knew,
through that.
okay,
Oh my
that I
goodness,
was
that is
pregnant. And then
so
I
sad.
pushed something out, and soon after that, I believe I had my period again. And at that point, I didn't tell anyone. I still hadn't told anyone.
Whoa.
I
You
remember
went through all that
digging
by
in the
yourself.
toilet and taking out all of the weird stuff. Like it was like a big ball of like human
Oh my
tissues.
gosh.
And
My
so I
oh my
remember taking
god.
this big thing and like putting it in the bathroom trash. It was crazy at that moment.
That
I
is,
felt like, I don't know, like I could have died. I was
yes,
sad, I was
baby.
angry, but not sad for losing the baby at that moment. I just wanted my period. I was like, if I don't get my period, I'm gonna be in trouble. It was on and
Whoa,
off.
not you gonna
Whenever
be
he
in trouble,
graduated,
baby.
he actually moved out of my mom's house
That's good.
and went and
That's good.
stayed with another one of our aunts. And so he was actually gone. He wasn't living with us at the time. But anytime with family events, anytime he would see me, anytime that I was around him, he would be doing weird things to me. So from the
That is
time I
so
was about
sad.
11 until the time I was about 15, when I got pregnant with my daughter, that's when he molested and abused me. I've always
Whoa.
been an outgoing person. You know, I've always been funny. People always wanted to be around me. And I've always been smart. I've always been smart. I always got good grades. When this happened to me and I was pregnant for the second time, I came
Whoa.
home with 5 F's on my report card. And my
Yeah.
mom lost it. You know, she's just thinking, she didn't know what was going on. So she's thinking, you know, you're just in school just doing nothing. You know, it
Oh
was
my
like
goodness.
night and day. I've always got good grades, always had honor
That's what she
roll.
should have been
So when I came
investigating.
home with
It's
5 F's on my
something.
report card, it was alarming for her. I remember
Yeah.
even reaching out to the person who molested and abused me, and I remember telling him that I thought that I was pregnant. And
Whoa.
it was scary because he didn't really care. He just didn't want his name involved. When I was
No.
15, I remember my aunt was going out of town and to the beach. And last minute, she decided to take me and my younger sister with her.
Oh
Instead of us going
goodness.
home, she's like, you know, you can go to the beach with us. And I remember going to the beach, but I felt so sick. Like when I was 12 or 13, when I got pregnant the first time, I felt like that, but it was like horrible. Like it was even worse than the first time.
Right,
I
because you were
felt really, really
so,
sick.
so young.
I felt like I was gonna throw up all the time. I had hot flashes. When I stood up for too long, I felt like I was gonna pass out. I was pregnant for
Whoa.
9 whole months, and nobody knew. It was different socially.
No.
When I was pregnant, I had
That
two had
baby
a
was
fight.
going through
I was going
all
through a
of.
lot socially. A lot of people didn't
Mm.
like me. I don't know if it was because I was pregnant. I don't know, but I know a lot of people didn't like me. I wound up going through principal to principal transferred, switching schools because I was getting
Wow.
suspended so much for having altercations with people. I didn't really have that many people that I could talk to because when you're going through something real life like that, you can't really relate to the other kids in that way.
Right.
You know, I had something, I was on a different level at that moment because I had other things that I was thinking about. My
Oh my
stomach did
goodness.
get big, which everybody was, you know, some people would say things like, I remember being in church and the girl asking me, "Are you pregnant?" I'm like, "No," you know,
Oh.
but I was. Some people would say things like that to me, but I was a heavy set girl, so you know I didn't get that much. I would just wear baggy stuff like hoodies and you know sweaters, stuff like that, stuff that I could hide my stomach with. It really was
Mm-hmm.
April 9th that everything started.
Goodness
So
be
I remember
cheesy.
being at school and just having really bad pains. I could barely, and now I said I could barely stand up for my whole pregnancy, but at this moment I could barely sit down. It was like I remember being gassy. I remember having pains, which now I know to be Braxton Hicks. I remember going through a
Wow.
whole lot of different symptoms in class. And I remember one of the teachers asking me, like, what's wrong with you? And I couldn't sit down, you know,
You
just
was
going
just
through a
in
lot,
pain.
standing
Oh
up,
my
you know,
God. And you
watching
going through
teachers. And
all
I
this.
literally,
Oh
I
my
mean, I
goodness.
didn't
This is
know
so
if I
sad.
was going in labor right then, but I just knew I couldn't sit down for nothing. I mean, it was really hard at that moment. And I remember
Oh my
when I
goodness.
did go home after school, it was terrible. Like for the whole day, I was in the room in bed, laying down, getting up and down, up and down, up and down. It was like
Oh
every
my
few minutes,
goodness.
and now I
That
know it was
baby.
contractions. Every few minutes, I would get up and I would be in a lot of pain.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I mean, all throughout the night, it was just terrible. I mean, I remember it was just
And through
late
all
to the point
that,
where
she never
everything was
had
quiet.
nobody.
Nobody was up. Everybody was asleep. I was the only one
Oh
up,
my
and I was
goodness.
hurting so bad. And how I got to the hospital is I just called the ambulance. I was so
Thank you.
scared at that
About
moment
time.
to even tell my mom that I was
Yeah.
pregnant. I wound up getting out. I was waiting on the ambulance. At that point, I told my mom that I called the ambulance, but I didn't tell her why. So
Right.
this moment, I'm waiting on the
Oh my
ambulance. Mom
goodness.
was like, "Why did you call the ambulance?" You know, she was just confused. Like, why you didn't just tell me and take you to the hospital? She was confused. She didn't know what was going on. And
Oh
so,
my
which
goodness.
I did tell the person who answered the phone, the 911
This
dispatch. I
right.
did tell them that I was pregnant. I did tell them that I thought I was going in labor. Told them how old I was. I told them, you know, I
Oh
was
my
asking different
goodness.
questions. And so the lady told me to lay down and just wait, and the ambulance will be there soon. And so when I heard the ambulance, I wound up getting up off the couch because she told me to lay down. And so whenever I heard the ambulance, I did get up and I went outside. The people were speaking to me, and I was telling them that I was pregnant and that I felt like I was going into labor, and my mom didn't know.
Heard.
I told them my mom didn't know, and I asked
Oh
them,
my
could they
goodness.
tell her for me? And so I remember the man.
Oh,
I wouldn't say in and out of consciousness, but I was just in so much pain that I couldn't even, you know,
you
I could
couldn't
just tell him
function.
that much. And after that, I was just in and out. You know, it was just a
Mm-hmm.
lot going on. My body was going through so much pain that I was kind of like in and out. Whenever
Mm-hmm.
my mom came down the hill, I could hear her voice and I could hear the man speaking to her. And I remember him telling her, your daughter's going into labor. It looks like she's going into labor.
Oh
And my
my
mom
gosh.
was very confused. You know, she's going into labor. You know, she didn't know nothing about pregnancy. She didn't know nothing about anything. The pain was like something like your period pains times like 100. So it was
Right.
just terrible for me. They get me checked
Mm-mm.
in. They do say that I am in labor, and so they wind
Oh
up
my goodness.
taking me into my room. As my family arrived, everybody's coming up. You know, everybody's like very confused.
Right.
My mom is continuously asking me, well, you
Who's
know,
the
who is it?
father?
Who's the dad? Who's the dad? You know, she's trying to figure out, you know, what's going on. And he, which is my older cousin, he wound up coming to the hospital as
No, he
well. He came
came.
to the hospital and
You
everybody was
bold.
there. I wound up having my daughter. And it was crazy. Everybody was just confused about when and how, you know.
Right.
And so wound up having my daughter. I stayed in the hospital maybe about 3 days. And
Okay.
I
Okay.
remember on that last night that I stayed at the hospital, me and my mom, we wound up getting into an argument, and well, not really argument. She just wound up like cursing me out because she just didn't know what was going on. I remember lying to her. I did lie at first, and I told her that it was this guy from school, and
Oh
she just was
wow.
wanting to know, okay, it's this guy from school. Where is he? Who is
Right.
he? You know,
With
she
his
wanting to know the
parents.
details because it's a baby. Like it's not like I just said that I'm pregnant. It's a baby like right now. So
Right.
she's trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And so she winds up, you know, getting upset with me and just naming people like, okay, like who is it? She started naming family members.
Yep.
And I remember her naming him, and I just wound up telling her that it was him.
Yep.
And she was shocked. She was really shocked. She wound up calling the whole family, of
Yep.
course.
And letting
After that, she wound up pressing charges. He never got charged for the
what?
molestation that happened when he lived in my house. He only got charged for when I got pregnant, which was because at first, whenever everything happened, they could do like a conception thing of when I got pregnant. And
Right.
I always felt like I got pregnant on my little cousin's birthday. And he wound up getting only statutorial rape of a
Right.
person 4 years or more, something like that. I
Younger
forgot what
than
the
him.
charge was, but it was
Mm-hmm.
something to that effect, which wasn't very long at all. But how it was explained
Oh.
to me is that when he got out, I could pursue charges all over again. But at that time, I was like, when he got out of jail, I was like 20, and it was just at that time it was really hard for me. At that time, when he got out of jail, around that time, it was really hard for me. I didn't really want to go back down that
Mm.
road.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to have to deal
You
with
wanted to
that at
move
all.
on.
So I just kind of left it where it was, and I just didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with it. And so whenever he got home from jail, I would say that's when my mental state kind of took a turn. I
Yeah.
remember when around that time, that's when I got diagnosed with my mental health issues.
Oh
I have
wow.
PTSD.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety.
Oh,
borderline personality disorder, and it was like
that is
it just
so
was terrible. It
sad.
was terrible. I was going through a lot.
Wow,
I
wow,
actually wound up
wow.
going and I stayed in a hospital for my mental issues overnight for a day, and that's when I got diagnosed. I actually got diagnosed
Wow.
from going in the emergency
Emergency
room
room.
because I was going through so much one day that I just like I kind of went insane. I think something happened. I can't think of the specific thing right now. Something happened, and it upset me so bad. I had to go to the hospital because I just felt like I was having a breakdown. And so when I went to the hospital, they wound up doing tests, and I spoke to a therapist, told them about everything that happened to me, and that's when they diagnosed me. So whenever I had my daughter, I just of course I really as a kid I thought about giving away my daughter because I
Okay.
was
So young.
confused. I kind of felt like, oh, if I just give her away to a different family, then I wouldn't have to worry about it. And um that didn't wind up happening. I wound up just keeping her, and my mom helps me out a lot. My stepdad helps me
Okay.
out a lot.
Okay.
I do have a
That's
boyfriend who
wonderful.
helps me out a lot.
Wonderful,
I met
wonderful,
him soon
wonderful.
after that, and so I have a lot of help.
That's
So
good.
I wound up being a young parent. I sometimes get
To your
really,
cousin's
really, I hate to say
baby.
crazy, but I get really impatient. I overreact to things. I am a person who thinks on impulse. Like I have really bad road rage. That's just an
Oh,
example.
wow.
But when things happen, I overreact. And how the doctor explained it is that when things happen and they could be small in like a normal person's mind, it could be very small, but in my mind, it's like really big,
Right.
And so it affects me in that way of making life decisions and choices, like being
Wow.
in college. I
Like,
wound up dropping
subscribe,
out.
share.
It affects me in everyday life. Honestly,
OMG.
it
This
affects
was
me in
so
everyday
sad.
life. God helps me a lot.
But you
I
never know what.
have tried therapy. I
Amen.
tried therapy kind of when it first happened. After probably about a year of therapy, I wound up not going anymore.
Okay.
But I pretty much am like unmedicated. I just kind of
Wow.
roll with the punches. Now I'm 25. I am a teacher's
Okay.
assistant. So I went to school for about 2 years, which got me enough credits to be able
Yes.
to work in the school system as a teacher's
Amen.
assistant. I
Yes.
just started this job probably about a month and a half ago, and I love it. It's a really good
Good job.
job, and
That's
I
what's
actually get to
up.
work with my mom, which I love, and so it's a really good job. I love it. It's
Yes.
been definitely brought peace to my life working with kids and being able to be
Yes.
that adult that I feel like at that age that I would want to go to. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's definitely brought a lot of light to my life. My daughter is now 9 years old, and she's in fourth
Wow.
grade. She's really smart. She's a beautiful child, and so that brings a lot of light to my life as well. And
Okay. Okay.
I have been with my boyfriend now for about 9 years. I actually met
Wow.
my
Wow.
boyfriend
Wow.
when my daughter was about 4 or 5 months. And
Okay.
so he definitely helped me out a lot too. He's the only person besides you, and now whoever watches this, who I've told my story to, and so he's
Wow.
helped me a lot with coping,
Right.
keeping myself on track. I don't trust nobody around my child.
Oh
My
no.
boyfriend has like brothers. Yeah, I can't.
Oh
If
no.
they times where they come and spend the night, I can't have my daughter in her room. She has to come in the room with me and sleep. I don't really trust men at all when it comes to my child. I be
Right.
feeling like people are sneaky. It kind of is
Mm-hmm.
so mind messing. I've been with my
I
boyfriend for about
understand.
9 years now. I have not had a child by him yet. I feel like what happened to me caused me to be infertile. And I hate to
Oh
take it back,
wow.
but whenever I was pregnant, some things came out. And my mom said something about him having diseases or something. Some girl coming to them about him having diseases or something like
Oh.
that, which of course, like now I don't have anything. I don't have
Okay.
anything
That's
that
good.
showed after I had my child, but I do feel like that I am infertile because of, I don't know if it's from having a miscarriage at a young age and
Okay.
not getting medical care, because I didn't get
Yeah.
medical care after that. It's very upsetting because
Oh,
my boyfriend is
wow.
like my high school sweetheart, and I've been with him for 9 years, and
Wow, wow,
I can't
wow.
have a child. I feel like, and it's like it really pisses me off because that
Wow.
person, that cousin, is like that. It seems like he's living his life right now. He speaks about it a lot. He wants to have kids, and I feel like it's just
Oh
so
my
unfair to
God.
him because
Goodness.
he's been with me for a long time, and he's been that father figure to my daughter. And here it is. I feel like we can't even have kids together. I don't know. I would be happy to, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to
Right.
happen. We've been together for a long time. So
Just
I
be
would say,
patient.
to get treated for any mental issues that you have, not to be
Right.
embarrassed and to speak about it, because you never know if you can help someone else out.
Wow.
I
This was
just
a
wish that
powerful
I was
interview.
comfortable to tell anybody what was going on to me. I
Yeah.
wish that I was comfortable to tell my mom, or to tell even my stepdad, my one of my other cousins, or
Right.
my aunt,
Somebody.
anybody. I wish I
One of
could
your
have told
siblings.
anybody what was
Somebody.
going on.
A
And sometimes I
teacher.
do beat myself down about that, because I feel like if I would have told, whenever it first happened, that first
Right.
pregnancy, that it wouldn't have been the second. I feel like, because of not because of my child, but because of what happened to me, my life is definitely a lot more difficult,
Right.
than it would be if it didn't happen to me.
Right. Right.
I feel like
Right.
I would be a lot
Like,
further in
subscribe,
life.
share, comment. Thank you for watching. This was a beautiful interview. Wow.